Good evening, Mr. Hickman. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm just waiting on our guest Lori Special to log on.
Okay, all right. I'm ready. I got the topic.
I can't with you, not tonight. Any other
Squeeze the squoze. I've been putting it up all week.
night.
Squeeze the squoze. Google it. Um, Squoze actually is a word.
Listen, we're not gonna do this tonight.
I'm serious. I've been. She's the expert. I want her to weigh in. I see you got a new look over there. What's going on?
Mind your business.
See, this is what happens. People go to Georgia, come back with a brand new look. I said, hold on, watch out. I said, that's P. I said, watch out now. Hmm.
Hey, Paula,
Hi everyone. We have our guest Lori here. What happened, Lori? I can't see you.
because I'm trying to get online on my computer, but I can't. I can only get on my phone. Wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
So did you I'm sorry, we are live discussing this. So
Sorry, guys. It's my fault.
um
Um,
did you
Wait, there I am. There I am.
why I don't see you?
Lawyer,
Can you
your
see?
screen is still black.
Uh,
Okay, there she is.
there I am.
Turn.
Okay, I
Okay, there
just
you go.
removed your phone from the stream.
Okay. It's, hold
Oh, I'm sorry you couldn't hear me.
on.
Happy
There's
Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Meeting of the Minds of Florida. I'm Paula. That's Chris. Everybody hates Chris. We know who Chris is.
that's right.
Tonight's guest is Lori Special, and she is very special to me because she's my cousin. So, hi Lori, love you. Tonight's topic is about literacy. Lori Special is a master. She has a master of library and information science, as well as being four classes away. I'll get it back. Four classes away from her doctorate's degree. We just lost Lori, so give me 1 second to get her back on.
She's back.
She's back.
She's back. Guess who's back? Lori.
So I just introduced you, Lori. If you want to tell us, I told them, you have a master's of library and information science, as well as being four classes away from your doctorate's degree. So if you want to introduce yourself, and we could just jump in about literacy. And I know a lot of you may not want to hear it because for some of you, the school year has ended or it's ending, but it's important to get started for the next year to let you guys know about resources, literacy for the children as well as us adults. So go ahead, Lori, and jump in. Lori, we can't hear you. Your mic sound like it's muted. I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. We still can't hear you, Lori.
I think she said, wait a minute.
Okay.
She's cussing the mic out. See, I can read lips. Saying now I won't let her turn it on. And she's frozen now. There's okay, she's back.
I apologize, everyone. We're trying to get Lori's sound on.
P, if her mic says it's muted, but Lori's saying her mic is unmuted, is there something else she can hit?
Tell her to hit the volume up button. Hit the volume up button.
Still can't. Her mic is now it's unmuted, but I still can't hear.
How do you reading her lips?
No, I'm watching her face right now. I mean, I see her mic is her mic is muted, but she's talking now. Her mic's on, and I still can't hear.
Okay, Lori, do you want to disconnect and reconnect with your phone?
I think that might be the
best way.
All right.
Hey, Karen. Hey, Auntie Pauline. I'm sorry, we're just having technical difficulties. I do apologize. So just give her a couple of seconds to reconnect. You may not be able to see her face, but you'll be able to actually hear her.
So, Pete, let me ask you this. And I know she's gonna hop back on in a minute, but why do you think this is big in dealing with our kids in terms of literacy?
You know, I remember growing up, and even with my kids, my mom used to take us to the library, and it wasn't one of those situations. And Lori and I spoke briefly this morning. It wasn't one of those situations where we would get dropped off and, we're free to do what we want. She took us and actually taught us, because back in the day, they didn't have computers.
Mm-hmm.
So she actually took us to the library, taught us how to look for books, and we literally had to sit there and read books. We also checked books out as well.
I remember that.
We were in reading groups at the library, and then we went back the following week to take books back and check books out again. And they have tutoring. They have a lot of things these days, inside the library that a lot of us don't know about. And we need to take advantage of those resources for us as well as our kids.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of cities offer free like they offer mommy and me time where they come out, they read to the tots.
Mommy and me. I was in a group like that when I was when I had Zaria. Lori, you can say something so we can hear you.
She dropped off again.
I was in a mommy and me group with Zaria. You do a lot of things in that group. They teach you exercises with your kids.
Yep.
You read to your kids. You do activities with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of resources in the community for us. We just don't take advantage of them, especially in our culture.
Yeah. I know Broward County Library has so many resources even for you to just go in and check out books. You can check out DVDs, CDs. And a lot of times, we used to go to the Mommy and Me times. We normally take the kids up there, and it's amazing the different stuff the library offers, and it's free. It's a resource. A lot of us, it's free. Mom wants to try to get a break or whoever, it's a resource you can't beat. And Lori's back.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
loud
thank
and clear.
you.
Whatever you
Yay!
do.
Thank you. I'm sorry about this. Technology works unless you have somebody on there who doesn't know how to do this, how to use it. So thanks, guys, for putting up with my technical difficulties. But going back to what you guys were talking about before is, yes, I'm Lori Special. I am Paula's cousin. I used to be a Sims. So if any of you know any Simses, I'm one of them. And I've been a lot. And we come from a long line of teachers, even those of us who did not go to school to be teachers. We have a lot of teachers in the family. And I stumbled into librarianship over 20 years ago by accident, simply because I took my kids to the library. And I wasn't working at the time, and I took my oldest son. And when the librarian was retiring, she said, "Do you want my job?" She was the library assistant. And I started working there, and then I loved it. And then I went to library school because in order to be a librarian, you have to have a master's degree. So all those people that you see who are librarians have a master's degree. And I love it because, as anybody in my family will tell you, that I am quite nosy, Nosey. But now that I'm a librarian, I can tell them that I am nosy, Knowsy.
Some people didn't get that. Some people didn't get that, Lord. Some people didn't get it.
Hey, Auntie Bowie.
But, going back to what Paula said before about literacy isn't something you just do during school. Literacy is something you have all the time. And you were talking, Chris, about, mommy and me time, daddy and me time at the library. The library, I've been a public librarian for a long time. And like you were saying, it's free. And libraries during the summer run summer reading program. And it's more than just reading. And that's why I wanted to talk about literacy, because the libraries offer more than just books. It is literacy. It is all literacies. It is reading. It is writing. It is numbers. It is emotional literacy. It's because when you go to story time or an activity at the library, you're not just learning numbers or letters or words or hearing stories, but you're actually learning how to get along with people, to be in the same space with people. You're following directions. You're learning how to ask questions. You're learning how to do a lot of things that a lot of us take for granted. And I look like I'm in the dark, but you're learning a lot of things that we take for granted. And I think this is so important, especially when you have your babies and when you have your young children. That's when you can get them that leg up to whatever they want to be in the future.
One thing I want to say is important to me. Learning to be around people, as you said before, and how to interact with them are not only for kids. It's not only for kids, because you still have some adults in this world that do not know how to interact with other people or even speak to other people in a respectful manner for that nature. So it's important for everybody. I don't think it's too late to learn. I think if a person don't want to pick up those good habits, so to speak, it's because they just don't want to. It's not that it's too late to learn. They're just used to doing what they want to do, and not thinking of being respectful or even how to interact with other people or speak to other people.
Hmm. And I think that's why for me family literacy is so important, because the people that children live with are their first best, they are their first teachers. So if you think about it, who's the person that is with you the most when from the time you're born?
Mom and dad.
It's who
Parents.
exactly, your mother,
Grandma.
your father, who
Aunts, uncles.
grandma, aunts, uncles, your siblings. It's
Mhm.
about not only sending the kids to school for the teachers to do the work, because teachers can't do it by themselves.
Mm-mm.
All teachers can do is build upon the foundation that the family has built. If you don't give those children a firm foundation at home, you're having those teachers try to build. My family will whip out scripture on you in a second, but you know that scripture about building your home on a foundation of sand.
Mhm.
You want to build your child's future on a foundation of rock that won't crumble.
Mm.
Lori, I
That
was hoping you wasn't going to say Meshach, Shadrach, and you know the last part. I'm not going to say that I picked up from you, and everybody know I picked it up from you. But we're going to go past that.
I don't remember that, so I will
It's
deny
okay.
it.
You can plead the fifth. It's okay.
I will deny that. But yeah, it's really important, and children need to see their parents
Mm.
reading. They need to see their parents being curious. They
Mm.
need to see their parents talking and asking questions, and just wanting to know, just not being satisfied that Joe down under the tree told me this. What well, the tree's not there anymore, but who is he? As my mother used to say, who is he? What does he know? Where did he get that information from?
Mhm.
And as long as you can read, as long as you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, no one can cheat you, and no one can take that knowledge from you. No one can just sell you a bill of goods and tell you, no one can sell you a rock and tell you it's gold.
Wow. Let me ask you this, Lori. Why do you think
Mhm.
we've gotten away from literacy? I mean, a lot of the youth I work with, I understand there's, YouTube, there's a lot of platforms, but like going to the library is like this archaic idea of like Stone Age, like living with Fred Flintstones. Like, how do we bring that back to, I guess, what is it, Gen Y or whatever the generation is called now?
Yeah. I think part of it goes back to it again, it goes back to the family,
Mm-hmm.
because you know in my father's generation, libraries were segregated.
Mm.
Many people of color, African Americans especially, had no public libraries to go to. If
Mm.
they had a school library, it was maybe a tiny room or a shelf in the school. It was
Mm.
not something that was they couldn't access it.
Wow.
And so once desegregation came along and then we could go to the library, we tended not to have that. It wasn't in our culture.
Mm.
And like Carnegie made libraries. There was a guy who owned Sears and Roebuck, who planted schools in Black communities all over the country.
Really?
And in these Rosenwald schools, the community had to put in sweat equity. It was almost like Habitat for Humanity.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay, community, you have to pay your teacher. Community, you have to make sure that you have the materials. Rosenwald would build your school, but you had to take the responsibility of educating your children by having that teachers, having someplace for that teacher to live, making sure that they got there. So when education was something that we had to work for, when libraries were stuff that we had to work for, we valued them much more. But we've forgotten that these things that we take for granted, like libraries, like public schools, were not always open to us. And so we treat them like they don't matter.
Wow.
And one of the things that, because for all my career, I've been a youth services librarian, and I've dealt with babies, children, parents, teachers, and the people that love kids and work with kids. And I can name the children of color on one hand that I would have at story time or that would come to my programs and still have fingers left over.
Wow. It's funny you say that because my wife, she's before COVID, she would take our two youngest to story time, and it was the same thing. She would be the only person of color in there, and to me, I'm flabbergasted because it's free, and it's knowledge that is there, and it hurts me because I work with youth who 18, 17, they're reading on second grade level. Mom may be reading on like probably a fifth grade level. So there's this big gap, and everybody keeps saying, I'm going to go to YouTube or I'll go get the information from wherever. And I'm like, I have a lot of kids that want to go take the GED, and they struggle because it's the knowledge. There's so many gaps. And you just educated me about Sears and Roebuck. I didn't know that about the sweat equity. And I feel like it's almost like we're building going back to what you said earlier, it's like we're building a foundation on sand, because a lot of our kids are now getting further dispelled, whether, they're African-American, Latino, low income, where it's a gap. And I remember a comedian once said, if you want to try to hide money from a black man, hide it in the book.
Exactly.
They will never find it.
Exactly.
And I'm sitting there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. And I had to ponder that, because when you're saying that, it's true.
And it's about the family. Like, people, like, we go to church and it is a habit, and they will beat you if you don't go to church.
Sunday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday.
Twice on Sundays. Plus youth group of Bible study. But that is not the only knowledge that is there. And how many of them, and even if you do that, how many of them actually purchase Bibles for their children?
Ooh.
And not just, there are many other Bibles. And while, I love the King James for its poetry, however, it is written in 16th century English. How many people can understand that?
Very few.
You need one not only that helps the children understand, if that is what you are doing, the scripture, but also something that unleashes their curiosity. And some people don't want you to be curious about the word, but how you have to be able to interpret it and to know what they're saying before you can take it into your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is just an example of one I bought for my daughter. It's got a lizard on the front. She put glitter on it.
Wow.
But it's called the Adventure Bible. And it has pictures, and it has themes, and it asks questions. Because literacy isn't just reading, it is understanding what you read.
Mm.
It is that comprehension. What does that mean?
Mm.
And when we are building that home communication, that literacy rich home, that needs to start when babies are in the womb.
Mm.
They hear what you are saying. So what are you putting in that baby's head along with your heartbeat when they're little? We have to build up our own and our children's learning stamina.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, we get them to the basketball court, we get them on the football court, we get them on the soccer field, the baseball field, we make sure they practice. But what good is it to become a tight end in the Miami Dolphin if you can't read your contract? If you can't count your money?
Can't. And a lot of players don't understand, like, even taking it from an athletic standpoint, the college is not looking to see how well you can read. How well can you comprehend?
They don't care. As long as you can put butts in seats and eyes on a TV. Because the minute you get hurt, they will cut you. But one thing that they cannot do is take away that education. And you will still have that. When I've got 2 masters. My first one I got at Virginia Tech, and one of the things I did was tutor the basketball students. And if I could tell anybody who has a son, especially boys, who are into sports and they're going to any school, make sure you know who your son's tutor is. Because make sure you know who your son's tutor is.
Thank you.
And what they are doing, because a lot of those girls, I got this because I was a graduate student and I was a teacher's assistant to one of the professors. The athletes who wanted to do well asked if I could tutor them. Because A, I didn't do their homework for them. B, I supported them in their learning. Mm. And C, they actually did the work and they learned.
It's
a lot of those tutors are these girls who are looking to get their hooks in an athlete early. And they will often do their homework for them.
I'm gonna tell you a little secret. At some schools, they have a card catalog, and some of the homework assignments have already been done from previous semesters, so they just go pull them and they recycle.
Exactly.
Sorry, guys, you already know I'm coming out the bag because I went to University of Georgia, and I had friends that honestly one of the greatest running backs I've ever seen, and we're sitting in Sunday school, and he would always say pass, and I did not know that he could not read.
Exactly.
And to this day, he still is number 5 in the state of Georgia for rushing, but he couldn't read. And the school they would let him go during certain classes. He would go to the lunchroom, and he would just hang out in the cafeteria. And when we started leaving, and you're talking about literacy, his dad never took the time to educate him. And so many parents I know, and that's why I wanted you to repeat what you said, because a lot of parents are just saying, okay, my kids don't need to read because they, it's about the contract. A lot of people don't read. You have to read the fine print. And there's so many stories of like, I trusted this person, then trust this person. And then the parents don't know what they're looking at. And then going back, the literacy part, like a lot of times it's we go to church, we get our kids a sports field, but then going back to what you said, comprehension, a lot of kids now that I see. You know, I'm not a teacher, but a struggle with comprehension because I work with some kids that they're so far behind the spectrum that I had one teacher told me, one of my students, he said, Chris, he would just be better going to get a job at Publix. That's what he told me. And the kid was 18. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, he said he did not have the resources and the time to work with the kid. He wanted to, but to try to get him caught up to that point. And he came from a low income area because a lot of times we're not taking the time to even teach our kids to read. And, you know, sometimes I work with parents and I always tell the moms, just read to the kid. Well, why should I read? Because they don't understand, Miss Hickman. You got to read.
Can I say something, Chris?
Please
have
go
hit
ahead.
the nail on the head. Because there's a program that public libraries run. It's called Every Child Ready to Read. And it is not a preschool literacy program. It is a parent early literacy program. Really? Because we can't teach kids to read. What we do is we model early literacy behaviors that parents can then do. And and you know, when we talk about early literacy skills, there are, if we include numeracy, there are 7, and numeracy is just recognizing and naming numbers, having spatial sense, like big, little, small, tight, thin, large, and recognizing patterns, and just all sorts of math things. But when we talk about reading literacy, we're talking about print motivation, and that is understanding that words, or that reading materials, books, magazines, signs can give me information. The second one is print awareness, that you notice words, you notice letters. One of the best stories that I know about this is I gave my nephew, I always give books as gifts. And my dad he's been in school since before I was born. So he was always on the computer. He was always writing something or working on something. So is my mom. So I gave my nephew a book. And one day, he was about 2.5. He came in to my parents' office. He just burst in. Granddad, and he held up a book I gave him. He said, Granddad, look at this. And he opened the book. And he goes, look at this. And he turned it upside down and he goes, okay, Wes, I see it. What am I looking at? He goes, those things that are on your computer, they're in this. And he ran out of the room with it, and he ran back in the room with it. He realized that a book had letters and words just like on the computer. But this, you could take it outside, you could hang it upside down. That is print awareness. Okay. Then he would go, like when they went places, he would point to signs. Look, that's those things on the computer. That's those letters. Yeah, it's the same thing. And it's like that is an early literacy skill.
Okay.
That is an early literacy skill. To know that he knew Granddad was writing words and he knew letters, but all of a sudden he made that connection with, wait a minute, it's just not on the computer. It's in these things that crazy auntie has been giving me. And I can do something with them. Number 4 is vocabulary. We need to talk to our children. One of the librarians that I worked with was working with parenting teens at the YWCA. And we talk about doing 5 literacy activities: reading, writing, singing, talking, playing. Like these things I'm talking about now: print motivation, print awareness, letter knowledge, knowing what letters look like and knowing those sounds. You don't need to know that. Because if you read, write, sing, talk, and play with the children in your lives, you will be doing every early literacy skill.
Hmm.
Every one of them, because vocabulary is just talking to them. And one of the young moms, when she was told that you have to talk to your babies, the girl said, "Why do I need to talk to my babies? My baby doesn't understand English. My baby doesn't know words."
Mm.
That was the teachable moment, because your baby learns words from listening to you, not to the TV, not to YouTube.
Mm.
If you like, there's that viral video going on now of that dad talking to
Yeah.
his little boy.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen in front of a screen.
Mm-mm.
That only happens with human interaction.
Mm.
And there's this other great one where this dad is looking, I mean, and babies love your faces. They love to look at your faces. He was holding the little girl up close to his face, and she couldn't have been more than a month old. And he was talking and talking and talking to her. He wasn't saying anything important. They don't care. But you could see that baby moving her mouth with his mouth.
Mm.
That's an early literacy skill. That's that connection. You're helping that baby make connections in their brains that are the foundations for them to do whatever they want in life.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go to narrative skills. That's telling stories. And I'm not talking about even lies are stories.
Imagination.
It it's learning how to tell stories. That a story has a beginning, middle, and an end. And you're using that vocabulary to tell a story. One of the best things is listening. How many of you guys listen to your grandparents or the neighbors tell stories?
All the time. I still remember.
Exactly. And you remember them. You remember the stories. It's teaching you vocabulary. It's teaching comprehension. That's still that talking part. You're learning new vocabulary. And especially if your home language is another language other than English,
Mhm.
even if it is a dialect of English, it is easier for you to learn proper English if you have heard lots of words.
Mm.
Because, you can say, lotion in whatever language you come from. If you know what lotion is, then it's easier to translate it into English once you know the concept.
Mm.
Because lotion is just a shorthand for saying that creamy stuff that keeps you from getting ashy. It's shorthand. And we say it's lotion. So talk to them. And then this is the big one that it's like phonological awareness. That's hearing and playing with word sounds. You guys are too, well, you may, I don't know. Are you too? Yeah, you're too old. I don't know. But you guys remember the name game? Did you ever play the name game? I know Paula did, because I did it with her name all the time. Paula, Bobala, Banana,
Yeah.
Fana, Paula. That's phonological awareness.
Okay.
That's taking bits and pieces of words, like in rhyming,
Mm-hmm.
and making nonsense words from them. You're learning how letter sounds go together. You're learning how to put things together to make words, even if they're nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you get older, sounding out words and reading words gets easier because you see patterns.
Mm.
And then
We
that,
did that on my porch, Lori.
exactly. And Auntie Val
Yep.
used to do that. I remember her saying that to all of us all the time. You know, and when you sing songs with your little ones, your kids, when you sing, it also breaks down words into their component parts. So you can hear each individual syllable, each individual part. Like, hey, Paula, hey, Chris, you guys, if you sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, how do you sing it? Sing Twinkle, Twinkle, just the first line for me.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Probably you
How
not
did,
gonna join in?
Nah,
no,
bro.
Okay,
you know
all
what?
right. I got something for you.
Aw. But think about how you sang that song, Chris. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. You don't sing it, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
Mm-mm.
You pronounce every syllable.
Right.
And that slows the language down so kids can catch the sounds.
Mm.
And singing tends to do that. You know, if you sing almost any nursery rhyme, ba ba black sheep, have you any wool? You don't say, have you any wool?
Mm.
Which is a lot different from when people sing the alphabet song,
I hate
Elemental P.
Elemental P. Oh my
Element of P.
God.
Elemental P.
Element of P.
Oh my God. I hate that part.
Just
So,
blow through
you
like
know, right. So slow it down. When you
mm.
talk to children, people naturally do it with babies. They slow their speech.
Hmm.
They slow it with toddlers because so they can catch the word. It's natural.
Hmm.
And one of the other things, and you don't necessarily have to stop it when kids get older, especially if you're teaching them new words or you really want them to hear what you're saying, slow it down and go quieter. They pay attention.
Hmm.
And I
Carlos
know
said,
that.
Carlos said, Lori, Lori, Bobori.
So just think of that. And and the last thing about phonological awareness is my daughter, her name is Nadia. Her brother's name is Aiden. Well, their names are palindromes. Her name is the opposite of her name is his name backwards. And it's because we were on a road trip and he was 3 and I was just reading signs and I started, it's just singing some stupid song and I said his dad's name backward. And I was reading like certain words backward. And so he says, Mommy, what's your name backwards? And I said, Iral. And Daddy's name is Neck. He said, what's my name backwards? And we thought about it. It's like, oh, your name backward is Nadia. And so he said, when I have a sister, I want that to be her name.
Wow.
Mm.
So
I
you
realize
use
that.
so you use these little moments and you talk to your kids.
Mm.
Their brains cannot be fed on YouTube and I don't know what else. I don't have cable, so I don't know what else is on there. Foolishness. And while Sesame Street is wonderful, we need to interact with them. They learn from us. We need to model what we want to see in our children.
Mm.
Okay, I'll stop talking now for a little bit now to let you guys have a
No, because you got the knowledge coming. I got a new rhyme I'm gonna use on Paula's name. This is good. This is good.
Really,
Since she don't want to sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Paula, Bobala, Fala.
Banana
Whatever.
family, follow me, my mama. Paula.
See,
We
I
can
got
do
everybody doing it.
Chris, Bobis, Banana, Fana, Fofis, P5, Momis,
Chris.
Chris.
And you know what, Lori? It's funny. We have internet. I don't have cable. I don't even have a TV in my room. I don't watch TV. I may
And
watch some shows or series on Hulu or Netflix, but I am not a TV person.
Mm-hmm.
I read. I don't watch TV. I don't even like cable. Zaria is the same thing.
mhm. And TV isn't bad because I watched entirely too much TV as a child. But everything in moderation. My mother took me to the library. That was one of my favorite things to do. She was a teacher. She would take me to the library on Saturday mornings
Mm.
because I like to do crafts. And they would have some sort of craft thing at the
Wow.
library every Saturday morning. And I still have the little totem pole I made out of spools and feathers and, oh, too much glitter. And then we would check out books.
Mm.
And even before that, people would give me books as gifts. And my poor father, I probably had him read Green Eggs and Ham to me a zillion
My
times.
book.
Oh, right?
That's my book,
And
man.
I love that. That one put me in the zoo. And there was one about snow by P.D. Eastman.
Yeah.
I'm in Miami. That was my favorite book. And then they would take the snowballs and put them in the freezer so they could keep them. This is a kid from Florida who knew nothing about snow. And that was one of my favorite books. Books open up the world to not only kids, but to people.
Adults, yeah.
Karen
To
said we could learn something from every form of media. She
Mm-hmm.
also said, yes, everything in moderation, but who guides you is important. And that is so true. You can read the
exactly.
wrong books, and that is absolutely true as well.
Exactly. And you know what? One of the things I've worked very many years in rural parts of the country that were predominantly white. I mean, and I'm talking rural. One of the counties I lived in had 54,000 people. That's it. I think there's that many people in the Bajas. But
That's my neighborhood, Chris.
now you made me forget what I was going to say. But it's just really one of the things. I was going around and doing a presentation at all the schools, and there were 5 elementary schools in the whole county, 2 high schools, and 3 middle schools. And I went around and I was doing my summer reading program promos. And the thing
Yes,
that I
we did
wanted,
Baja's, Karen.
and one of the things I wanted my kids to learn, whether they were in elementary school or in high school, is that you don't have to read novels. You don't have to read Harry Potter. You don't have to read Of Mice and Men or any novel. I said, put together every cereal box you have and read the back of them.
Wow.
Read magazines, read newspapers. And I said, guys, one of the people in your family that probably reads the most are your dads. And one of these little boys said, my daddy don't read. I said, I said, I will bet you an afternoon coming to dust all my shelves that your dad reads. He said, no, he don't. I said, okay, what does he take into the bathroom with him every day?
Newspaper, magazines.
Exactly. Exactly. And then I said, how long is he in there? Because I told them they had to read at least 15 minutes every day. And one little boy yelled, about an hour? I'm like, exactly. I said, so your dads read at least an hour a day. All I'm asking you to read is 15 minutes.
Hmm.
But people don't think of that as reading simply because it's not a novel.
See, that's the
I know
problem.
what I read of Mice and Men. I stopped where the guy stroked the mice until he died. That was it for me.
Now you got to read the rest of the book, P.
No, I didn't get past that part.
No, that's a classic. That's a classic.
Let me tell
But
you,
you know
that
what?
right there, I didn't get past that part.
I'm glad you stopped, Paula, because this, as a librarian, and my sister, who is an English professor, will probably disagree. But I tell people, especially my kids, give it 25 to 50 pages. If you don't like it, put it down. There are too many other books to read in this world to read something you don't like.
True.
And I think that's why a lot of people, and often teachers who are women, tend to pick books they like.
Yeah.
And then there are no choices. I'm a nonfiction reader. I like nonfiction and paranormal romances, and I am not ashamed. I like what I like. And there are some books that I read in school because I had to and I hated them. And because I can skim and I can get the main idea. I hardly read any of the books that I hated. Romeo and Juliet with
What?
the passion of
I
a
didn't read
thousand
that book
Are
burning.
you?
either. I read the
Oh no, I
beginning
gotta
and
hang
I
up on y'all.
stopped.
That is it.
Karen, Karen said she just started twitching.
I know she's twitching. I hated that book
Are you
so bad.
serious?
Yes, because I thought they were stupid.
No, Mercutio, Romeo, where art thou, Romeo?
No, that was unless it was Romeo and Mercutio. Mercutio was the dude that
He ended
Romeo
up,
killed, I think.
no, he got killed. Mercutio got killed. No, Mercutio was Romeo's friend. He got in the sword
And
fight with the other. Yeah.
yes, but I thought, first of all, what grown up is going to help you poison yourself, give
The
you
man did.
poison, run
The,
away? Same
the
reason I don't like Curious George.
what? Are you serious? The man with the big yellow hat? Curious George is a classic. Oh, come on.
George is so bad. He needed his butt whipped.
Curious George is curious. He's a monkey. He's curious. So,
But he never had to face the consequences for his
Karen
actions.
says she's scandalized right now.
George never had to face the consequences for his actions.
what consequences is he gonna
He
face?
was bad as HE double hockey stick.
He's a monkey. That's the whole point. He's a monkey. Would you
Even
gonna put the time out?
have to face their consequences. It's like, oh, George, you painted this whole room to look like a jungle. Oh, you're so curious. Man,
Oh,
put him in a cage until he learns how to behave.
you saw what happened with Bubbles and Michael Jackson, right? See what happens with Bubbles and Michael Jackson? It don't work. That's why we knew it. You let Bubbles out in the cage when he had them problems.
Don't bring Michael Jackson is the wrong example to bring into this conversation.
I brought Michael
prison.
Jackson up because obviously, Bubbles the monkey, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I
but
can't.
What about Great Gatsby? If y'all don't like Great Gatsby, I gotta go. Great Gatsby.
I like. I can
Zero.
hate Daisy, but I like the story.
Daisy was his guiding. That was his green light. That's why he built the house across the stream for her. That's across the river. That's Gatsby. That was the summons of the whole book.
But she was selfish and she was vain, and when he was trying to live up to her as his, like you said, his guiding light, but she wasn't worthy.
Chris, You know who rides around with a book? So if they have to wait on anything, or even if a light is taking too long, do you know Sunshine rides around with a book?
I'm
And
not surprised. I'm
book.
not surprised. In Sunshine's other life, she probably was a librarian. When Lori, if you ever meet Sunshine, you'll be like, yeah,
No.
she may be a librarian. She looks like she's a librarian. She has
I
the
don't.
look.
So I think Sunshine would probably say to those kids, "Get over here."
Sit down.
And you know what? I carry books in, and one of the worst things I think has happened is that Ebony magazine and Jet and some of those other magazines have stopped publishing
Mhm.
because that's where a lot of young people first
Yeah.
really
Oh,
saw adults reading,
read.
was at the barbershops reading
Yeah, I was about to
sports
say that. That
illustrated,
stat.
or at the beauty salon.
Yeah,
You read the Bible, which was Jet magazine. You
I remember
read
those.
Ebony. You read Essence. There were
Or
lots of things to
we
read.
used to read them in Mildred. Did you ever go to Mildred to get your hair
Of
done?
course, of course. But those, and so now a lot of where there's been an effort to put books and magazines and other reading material in places where people go with young children, getting reading materials back into the salons and the barbershop. There's this wonderful book by Derek Barnes called Ode to a Fresh Cut.
Oh yeah,
it,
great book.
it is a wonderful book. But again, if to help our community, we need to get reading material back. Every time I go to the hairdresser, I take picture books
Mm.
and I read to the grown-ups.
How do they respond to that? I'm just curious.
Every time I go, they say, "Did you bring a book to read to us today?"
Wow,
You better not
They
do that
turn,
here.
that may not
but
happen.
they turn the music down and people listen. Because if you think about it, the audio book industry is billions of dollars.
Hmm.
Because we as humans learn and we listen most carefully to the human voice. And
Hmm.
storytelling is a part of our DNA.
It's an art.
Right. And you don't have to make up stories. Somebody has done it for you. And often, if you have a picture book, something like this, it even has pictures. And also, comic books and graphic novels are as viable a medium as novels. I I became interested truly in reading on my own what I chose because my cousin Kevin introduced me to Spider-Man, Fantastic Four,
Hmm.
Thor, and Hulk.
With all his
So,
comic books, remember?
right. So Thor, I'm like, who is this Thor? I want to know more about him. So I went to the librarian and I said, I've been reading about Thor. I want to know more about him. So she took me to the Norse mythology. And then, from the Ten Commandments, we got into Egyptian mythology,
Mm.
and then Greek and Roman mythology. And then it goes on and on and on. Then because you're looking at the shelves and you go, oh, what's this? What's this? And going to the library and being
Henry, he
curious.
never let anybody touch his comic books, girl. You can
Oh
look at
God,
them
no.
and he can hold them up to you from afar. He turned the pages, but
No.
nobody can touch them.
That
So
is
don't
so
be sad.
true. That is so true. But it's like, comic books were my gateway drug.
Mm.
And watching PBS was, I wanted to find out more. And I think it's important that we don't discourage children from asking questions.
Mm.
a lot of us, who are you? You are just a child. You don't ask questions. You don't question.
Cut off curiosity.
If you stifle a child like that about the simplest things, when it gets to the big things, like asking questions in school, they're going to be too ashamed to ask questions. They're
Because
going to be
they're
too
gonna think
afraid.
that they're in a child's place and they shouldn't ask an adult those questions.
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing is, if you don't know, ask.
Yes.
Exactly. And praise them for asking questions. It's fine to say, like my daughters, I tell her to go put the dishes in the dishwasher. Why do I have to put the dishes in the dishwasher? Because they're dirty and you're part of this family and everybody has jobs. And she just heard me mention her, so she's going, hey.
Auntie Paulie said, write that book on Kevin and you guys' childhood. It would be full of jokes.
And abuse. He was terrible to us sometimes, but we still loved him.
But guess what? It wasn't really abuse. Kevin was a no-nonsense person.
Well, he was also curious. I have several scars. Every scar on my body except my C-section scar is from doing something with him. But also
curious student.
Yes, he was. But one of the big things I remember, and it really stuck with me. We would go to my grandmother's house, and I remember this one summer when we were all there. Walter Jr., Paula's sister, Niecy, Paula. I mean, all the kids were there. I don't know if we were there for a week. I don't know if we were there all summer. But we would all travel in this huge mob. And we would walk from my grandmother's house to the public pool. That was maybe about 6 blocks away. And in the park,
was that Bunch Park?
Bunch Park, in the park, there was a Winnebago. It was white with yellow stripes, and it was the Dade County Public Library bookmobile. Wow. And I would beg the big kids to let me go into the bookmobile before we went to the pool or after we came back to the pool. And that librarian was so nice to me because I had, my towel and my books in my bag. And then I would take my books back and I would take the books back that I got last week and I get new books this week. And my grandmother made sure that on the days that the bookmobile was there, that we got to go to the pool. And as long as we went together, and I can remember even when the big kids, Paula's older siblings, the really big kids didn't go, my cousin Kevin would say, okay, girl, hurry up and get your books.
Yeah.
And then, and the next thing you know, he's browsing around, but he would make me carry them. And so, and for us, reading and literacy was something that wasn't made fun of. We played school at my grandmother's house, and I was usually the teacher, and I was kind of mean. I made them do their work.
She was the meanest teacher. We didn't play school. We was in real school, bro.
That is true. But my grandmother made sure we had pencils and we had paper, and she had, manipulatives for us. And, even when she told us to go outside, she didn't discourage us from making things. She did discourage us from making tunnels in the sand.
Karen said you bossy.
Who said that?
Karen.
Takes one to know one. But, it's literacy just doesn't occur sitting down. It happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. Talking to the neighbors, playing games together, using your imagination, telling stories, listening to stories. Oh Lord, listening to the people, those televangelists on my grandmother's radio during the day, watching
Oh,
her read the Bible.
prove it. She didn't. She don't recall saying that, and she didn't say
Ooh,
it. I read it wrong.
what?
That you're bossy. She say prove it. She don't recall saying that. I think I read it wrong. She didn't say it.
I know she did. I can look at the chat too. Because I can read.
Oh my God.
But it's just, we came from a family of people we saw reading, whether it was newspapers, books, the Bible, magazines.
Karen.
And then they would teach us things like how to draw stuff, how to count things. Like I would count money after church with my grandfather every Sunday. It was the insurance man who came every week, and my grandmother had to give him the money for her life insurance.
Yeah.
Wow.
My favorite subject was math, and Uncle Pat is great at math.
Uncle Pat.
I used to save those hard questions for the weekend so I could ride my bike down there and let him show me how to work those questions out.
Right. And see, that is what family literacy is. It doesn't have to happen just in your house. It can happen, it takes a village. And, in our family, there was enough there's just enough, my grandmother had enough kids to staff a whole village.
I know,
but
right?
you had people who knew how, like my Aunt Antoinette she could sew. That is geometry. My dad was a PE teacher and he was always learning. I will never forget. He did a lesson on physics in basketball. And you say, how or why? We're talking arcs.
Yep.
We're talking angles, force, geometry. You could lay out a whole baseball field with a protractor.
I don't know that.
Because a line goes on forever. And the point where two angles meet is always, you can measure that point for the diamond using a protractor. It's amazing. So these are the type of things that happen in a family. Oh my God, we used to have serious croquet games in the field at in the middle school, high school. Croquet, that is truly about geometry and physics. Pool.
Auntie Valley and Uncle Gladys' backyard. Remember that was
Yes. Right, that's geometry and physics. Where you hit the ball. When my Aunt Gwen's ex-husband took out her dining table and put in a pool table. And my Uncle Edward and my Uncle Anthony mocked them and said, look at Gwen, she's got a fancy eating table like in the Beverly Hillbillies.
You remember when Uncle Gladys had the race car thing as big as the wall and you lift it up and put it in the wall and then you
Yes. And you look at all of these things.
Mr. Hickman, you only got to see the fun part of the family, but back in the days, that was the fun part.
Off the chain.
Yeah. We would play games. We had to learn how to count because our Uncle Leo cheated at every game.
God.
If you were the young one, you had to learn how to do math quick, because if we were playing 21, somebody would say, that's not 21. That's only 15. And you couldn't just believe them. You had to learn how to add.
Mm.
So and that's what we're talking about with those early literacy activities. That is play. That is play. When we were playing croquet, when we were playing basketball and baseball and softball and basketball, and learning how to sew, learning how to cook, cooking. Aunt Val and me, Auntie Val, I would go over to her house all the time and watch her cook. My grandmother was a wonderful cook.
Yes,
That's
she was.
chemistry. That's chemistry. Everything we do in our lives is teaching a literacy skill. And when we do these things with the young people in our lives, or even with the old people in our lives, it's helping our brains grow. It's helping us learn. It is keeping our minds active,
Mhm.
especially if and then we get into senior, keeping senior citizens' minds active.
True. That's I didn't even think about.
With
Do
all
things with
the
them. Ask
with all
them.
the activities and arts to keep them, what do you call, I can't think of the word, but
Preoccupied.
yes, because Miss Deborah wants me to teach art class in her senior group.
Yes. Teach them something new.
Mm.
You know, to ask them questions. I remember my grandmother had lost her sight, and I had just come back from Nassau, and I had wanted her to teach me how to make something called guava duff, because that was one of her favorite things. So I brought some frozen guava back from Nassau, and I asked her how. I said, I brought the guavas back, Mima. How do you make it? And she says, well, first you make a sweet dough. You know how to make a sweet dough, Paula?
No.
Neither did I. I was like, how do you make a sweet dough, Mima? Oh, you need some baking powder, some flour, some sugar, a little salt. And what proportions, Mima? Enough to make a sweet dough. So I had her measure things out in her hands.
Wow.
And once she measured it, I had her put it on a piece of wax paper, and then I measured it. And this is when she was living at Aunt Polly's house. And I measured everything, and she sat there with me. And then I would say, how much water, Mima? She says, enough so it's sticky. So I said, is this enough water? No, add some more water. She put her hands in and feel it. Add some more water. You can do that with little kids. I
Mm.
think I was in college at the time. But again, it may look like it was cooking, but we're talking to each other. She's teaching me vocabulary. We're doing measurements. We're playing. We're having a wonderful time. So when we're talking about these 5 activities, reading, writing, singing, talking, playing, we have to expand our definition as to what those things are and how we do them and what we do. I consider, because I was having a great time with my grandmother, I wasn't, we can learn, play is one of the best ways to learn. And the guava duff came out really nicely too. And she taught me how to make a hard sauce, although we didn't put any rum in it at the time because Paulette didn't have any.
I can't with her. Well, it's now 8:15. We've come to I hate to have to go, because this is a very nice informative show, because everything we do in life you can learn from it, especially with your
Mhm.
kids, whether it's baking cookies, teaching them how to use a measuring cup. They're working
Mhm.
with numbers using a measuring cup. So there's a lot of things that we can do at home with our kids, even our elderly mothers and grandmothers, to keep their, is it cognitive skills, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
So that we could do these things. And I know that during the pandemic, a lot of people has really been on point with this stuff with their kids because we had no other choice
You have a
but to
choice.
find activities, even with the adult kids.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Choice but to find activities to keep them involved because this gave us an opportunity to be closer to our loved ones.
Hey, Paula, and just one more thing. The public library is there for to serve you. If they are having story times that you can't go to because you're at work, tell them you want something on the weekend or the evening, but go. Once you have to go. Don't ask for it and then don't show up. Bring your friends. They have programs and activities for senior citizens. They have programs for middle-aged people like us. If you want something, open your mouth and, what does Mima would say, open your mouth and ask for it.
There go that Bahamian accent.
It's coming out. I hear it now.
Ask for it and then go. Bring your friends because they're not going to do something for anybody if nobody shows up.
Mm.
And that's so true. We and look, I'm going to say this briefly and then we're going to hang up. Um Lori and I talked earlier. Nowadays, us parents are using the library as a babysitting tool. You drop your kids off to go
And
in the
leave.
library, but you don't go in with them.
Mm-mm.
You don't make sure they have a book, and a book that is
Age appropriate.
age appropriate for them. What they do is go there to meet their little friends or their little female friends, vice versa, girls and boys, and they're missing the whole point of the library. I've been there where parents have dropped kids off and the librarian had to keep saying, okay, I'm going to have you call your parents if you don't settle down, but they're not reading books. It's just a hangout spot. And if
That
nowadays, people are only using the library because they have Wi-Fi there, and not even to go get a book or any use any of the library resources. So if we get back into that, we can bring back that knowledge, even for adults. We can bring back that knowledge in our homes for our kids.
Mm.
Or we can go with our kids. We're going to go to the library for an hour. It's just spending time with your kids.
Yep.
and it doesn't have to be your own kids. Grab
Um,
somebody else's kids.
If you let me tell you, if you put, I'm gonna give you an example. Zaria will be 21. If you put Zaria in, well, no, I'm not gonna use Zaria because she knows. If you put maybe my granddaughter Ayana in the library, in an old-fashioned library, she probably wouldn't know how to use it.
ask her about Dewey Decimal. She don't know about Dewey Decimal. That card catalog, pulling that thing out with them 6 digits.
She probably wouldn't even know where to begin. She probably will ask me, "What are those?"
That's old school, man. We use
I'm just saying,
like we use computers now. That's much easier.
yeah, but what I'm saying is Zaria knows about it, but these kids, they'll be lost if they took all these electronics away. They'll be lost. They'll be totally lost. But I want to say thank you, Lori. Um,
Laura, I got one question.
oh,
Yes.
there you go.
Squeezed or squozed?
I would say squeeze, but wait, you squeeze, That squoze is not a word.
Listen,
Sure.
when he talks,
And you can ask my sister Karen. She is the English
I'm
professor.
gonna ask Karen.
But it is squozed is not a word. It's
I
squeezed.
squoze the lemonade.
No.
I'm not drinking that lemonade. You squoze.
I don't want anything you squozed either.
Well, thank you, Lori, for taking the time. Oh, and congratulations. I have to
Yes,
tell everybody. Lori actually moving to Colorado, right?
Yes.
that's my state.
And Karen said she wouldn't drink it either. And she thinks she gonna get my behind out there on skis. What did you say was our alternative thing to do on that little what?
Snow tubing.
Oh, ooh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we gonna do that.
Yep.
So congratulations on that. And you didn't hear early, and maybe a lot of you didn't hear early. She's 4 classes away from her doctorate degree. So congratulations on that. I never we never really get to talk, but I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of Karen as well. I'm proud of all of my family. My family has done very well, and whatever they do, anything they touch, they rock it. So thank you
And
guys.
Karen has to write her dissertation. I'm putting that out there
Okay.
so we can harass her.
Okay, Karen. Now she's not talking, but
Now Karen
I
ain't got
know.
quiet. The comments have stopped. Karen has signed off.
anyway, thank you, Lori, for taking the time out your busy schedule, and thank you for sharing the different type of literacies, because a lot of people didn't know about the different type of literacies, and some people don't even know the services. Sorry, that the library offers. So,
It's free. You pay for it with your taxes. Go.
Karen said, no, Karen didn't say anything. She said she's working on it, family. But anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. And Chris and I will see you next week, Thursday. And by the way, my picture is up because I'm having a very bad hair day. And I do apologize, but I'll be back next week. I don't have no shame.
It's all
Thank
right.
you, Auntie
You got
Valerie.
that brand new look, Lori. She got that brand new look.
Thank you, Auntie Paulie and Carlo. What happened?
You got that brand new look. That's why I see you up there with your little picture. I see you.
That's that Georgia look, boo.
I know. I see it. I wasn't gonna say nothing. And you said that. I didn't say that. That's you.
Yeah, that's that in Georgia look. But anyway, thank you everybody, and thank you for joining in.
Bye.
Good night.
I'm about to go score some lemonade. I'll see y'all later.
Anyway, don't give your kids none.
Scrolls.
Good night.